Hello and welcome to your South King County Real Estate Update. Today is May 28th. We're at the end of May. This year is just flying by, let me tell you. So I'll go ahead and jump into the slides and share your South King County news for this week. Okay. So my name is Sarah Eggleston. I'm with Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott, and this is your South King County Real Estate Update. So let's find out what happened this week. So Tuesday night, we had our little paint night. You can see mine down on in the corner here. It was a ton of fun. I am always impressed with how well everyone's paintings turn out. They're all so different and yet similar. So it's just fun to see. So make sure to sign up for my newsletter if you'd like to be involved in the next one, because I will certainly send out an alert whenever that is scheduled. So what happened this week? So I had been working with a lovely couple to purchase a manufactured home inside of a park. It was on a rented lot space, and it is there are several different ways that these manufactured homes are set up. Some manufactured homes are just residences on their own plot of land, no other homes around. You own the land. It's just the structure that happens to be on the land is a manufactured home. So there's nothing wrong with manufactured homes in general. They're just built to a different standard, built off-site and then assembled on-site. But there's a lot of them out there that are in parks, and some of them are condos where you do own the land beneath it, but you pay kind of like a homeowners association due sort of thing. And then other units where you rent the land. And we were looking at one, we were actually under contract to purchase a home with rented land. And if you are looking to purchase a manufactured home on rented land, please be aware that they are supposed to provide you with the past 5 years of rental lot rent history, so you can see the trend in how fast the prices are going up and down. And then there's a whole bunch of documents that they're supposed to provide you. There was a lot of like miscommunication about what this property was, whether it was condo, whether it was a manufactured home on rented land. We knew it was on a rented spot, but all of these documents that were supposed to be provided to us weren't. So when we finally got our information regarding the past rents and all this, it was past our 10-day verification period. And we saw these lot rents and we're like, whoa, that's rising super fast. So that was something my clients were not willing to do, is pay a higher lot rent in the future. They were kind of at the top, kind of looking at it going, no, that's a bit high, but that's, it's at the top of our price range, but we can manage that. So we ended up having to get out of that deal, and luckily my buyer's earnest money got returned to them. Luckily it was easy. It would have gotten returned to them regardless, but we didn't have to bring in lawyers. I had consulted a lawyer for his advice on how to proceed, but we ended up not having to fight for it too hard. So I am really glad that we got my buyer's earnest money back and that we got all these details before they got locked into a contract that they were going to regret. So if you are looking to purchase a manufactured home, please come and talk to me. I have a lot that I can share on that subject. So I'll go ahead and jump back on into the slides. So, Seattle has had some pretty dramatic price increases, or the Seattle area, especially what would have been more affordable areas outside of the city. So, um, single family homes in our area were up 18.3% in March compared to a year earlier. So, that is pretty significant. And remember, in March, it wasn't till the very end of March that the coronavirus pandemic really started to affect the housing market and the shutdowns started happening. So this is comparing it to pre-COVID times, basically. And the national demand for homes is trending 20% above 2017 to 19 levels. So home has really come to mean something different to people in the last year. And if people have spent more time in their homes, a lot more people are having work from home or remote work or hybrid work experiences. And they want more. Most people are wanting more space. They just want that home that they can really just feel comfortable in if they have to spend long periods of time there. And with demand, here, I love this quote: with demand in high gear, no respite in sight, home price growth is likely to remain in double digits over at the coming quarter. I don't know for sure if it'll remain in double digits for the whole quarter, but the next couple months for sure. Because remember, a year ago we were in lockdown, so we are comparing to a time when there weren't very many home sales. And you can see Seattle has kept pace far ahead of the national average on home price growth. And so the most of the prices spiked in the more affordable areas. So if you break it out, Tacoma increased 18% year over year, while Seattle only increased 8% year over year. And half the homes in Seattle went pending in just 5 days. That is incredibly fast. And Tacoma is one of the nation's most competitive housing markets. So home buyers are increasingly offering more than the list price. Keep in mind that all of these articles that come out in the newspapers are using data that lags about a month. I feel like next month we might start to see some different headlines in the newspapers, because I'm just hearing about a lot of softening. There's some homes that are not getting offers on that first weekend. I was looking through some comps yesterday and today for a listing that I have coming up, and there's more of the homes are definitely having longer days on market than when I was initially looking at this particular comp like 2 months ago. 2 to 3 months ago, it was like everything was sold in such a short period of time, and now it's like, okay, there's one that's been on for 7 days. What's going on there? So so the senior economist at Zillow had this quote: "This might be the most competitive housing market we've ever seen in the United States, at least in modern times." And I agree. The past few months have been insane. I mean, you don't hear about 40 offers coming in on a house very often. It's a unique market for sure. But I haven't heard the 25, 40 offers in the last couple months. It's more like, at first it was 10, then 8. Now I'm getting down to hearing about a bunch with 4 or not going pending that first weekend at all. So buyers, you might have a little window of opportunity coming up. So be prepared. Oh, yeah, I did want to mention in 2020, 20.3% of homes sold over list price, compared to 14.2 in 2019. And if we bring that to 2020, 28% homes have been sold above their list price in January and February. So one thing that happens a lot in this type of market where buyers are bidding up over the list price is low appraisals. And last month, 19% of homes had their appraised value come in low. So this is never good for the people in the transaction. The seller wants to, you know, have his house worth more, and the buyer wants to have more of their loan funded and not have to come up with extra price or negotiating the seller down on the offer price. It's always a hiccup in the transaction when this happens. And sometimes you can get past it and sometimes you can't. So there's been a lot of people that are bidding over. So generally in that situation, home values would appraise low. However, there was one thing I noticed in this article that was incorrect. They said that the buyer has to come up with the difference if it appraises low in order to proceed with the transaction. This is incorrect. This can happen. This can be the solution if the buyer has the extra funds. However, the seller can reduce their price to the appraised value, or the buyer and seller can meet somewhere in the middle. This is a moment in the transaction that it's a negotiation point. It doesn't mean that the buyer has to pay the difference between the loan. And if you can't come to an agreement on what the new purchase price shall be, the deal falls apart and the home goes back on the market. Fewer Americans signed contracts to buy homes in April. Pending homes fell 4.4%, which was the third straight month of a decrease. And basically, this is just due to the lack of supply. If there was more to buy, more would be bought. So, but yeah, the contract signings are kind of one of those leading indicators of future home purchases, and they're 50% ahead of where they were last April, but definitely declined from where we were a month ago. But that 50%, again, remember that was in April, we were in lockdown. So that's not a very good judgment for how this year's doing when people were required to stay home during this month last year. So there was actually two reports that came out this week that it was separate reports showed the sales of both previously occupied homes and new homes both fell in April. However, if you combine those two graphs, if you look at, yes, they did both decline, but new home sales, if you add that into the new home sales, it's just new home sales or existing home sales fell much sharper than new home sales did. Oh, and the investors are actually coming back into the market. So that is something that we see when there's deals to be had usually. So the fact that things are bidding up so high over the offer price and the investors are coming out means that they think that home values will continue to go up, and it doesn't really matter what they pay for the house now, because in the future it will be worth more. So this has been really hard, especially for first-time home buyers. However, there are first-time home buyers still buying homes out there. So I have a huge passion for helping first-time home buyers. It's so exciting. So if you are a first-time home buyer who's looking at possibly jumping into the industry or into the market, like, let me know. Let's sit down together and I'll show you some different ideas for how to strengthen your offers, strengthen your position, and just improve your chances of coming out successful. So US new homes did drop, as I said before. So 5.9% in April, less than the month before. So but home prices for new homes have increased significantly. In March, the average value was 372,400. Or sorry, in April, up for 11% from March. And April was a record. The average price of a home sold in April was a record 435,400. This is nationwide, but that is a incredibly large number if you think of the nation as a whole. So it is interesting. But new home sales fell in every region of the country in April, except for the West, which posted a 7.9 increase. So while new home sales are down nationwide, they're actually up in our specific area. And I talked about the new COVID restrictions last week. And once again, I had an email come in just after my show ended. So they did give us a little bit more guidance. For consumers visiting a real estate office, firms can require a facial covering. Firms can allow vaccinated people to not wear a face, can allow fully vaccinated people to not wear a face covering, either providing providing proof of vaccination or on an honor system. And for brokers and employees, they can firms can require brokers and employees to wear face coverings, or once again, they can allow fully vaccinated people to not wear face coverings if they show proof of vaccination or sign a document attesting to the vaccination. As far as visiting properties, all persons must wear face covering unless the seller instructs otherwise. So the seller has to specifically say, fully vaccinated people do not have to wear a mask inside my home. But that is all up to the seller. If that is not specifically stated, masks are still required. And just a reminder, we're in phase 3, so 50% capacity in offices and 10 people plus the broker at on-site interactions. And that brings us to our market stat minute. So we had 718 new listings, 1,285 pending, and 1,045 sold in the last 7 days. And if you look at this, you'll notice our new listings dropped dramatically in this past week. So I have a sneaking suspicion that that has something to do with the holiday Monday, because Monday's Memorial Day. And I actually had some clients that were thinking about going on the market for this weekend. And not just for this reason, but one of the reasons that we decided to wait a week was just avoid the Memorial Day weekend. I think people are excited to be able to go travel, and more people are vaccinated, and I think we'll see more out and about doing this. But this was a pretty big drop. That was a bigger drop in new listings than I was expecting. And we have our showing traffic for nationwide has also gone down over the last week. And for mortgage rates, last week we were at 3% for our weekly average rate. And this week, our weekly average rate is 2.95%. But as I said, take those weekly averages with a grain of salt. Those are generally Monday to Monday comparisons. So yesterday and the day before, we had quite a jump in our interest rates, and we're now at 3.12 as of today. So if you have questions, please feel free to reach out. My phone number and email address are on the screen there. My name is Sarah Eggleston with John L. Scott, Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott. And I will be back here 3 p.m. next week. I love doing these shows for you. And I would love to make them more relevant to what you would like to see. So if you have something you would like to see me cover on these little shows, shoot me a message, let me know. I'll make sure to fit it in there. Or we can just sit down for a one-on-one conversation and discuss your specific situation. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you next week at 3 p.m. Have a great week.